Welcome to another week of Brew Skies Booze News, where we give you a breakdown of the stuff that happened in the alcoholic beverage industry this past week, along with a lot of random nonsense. I'm Mike Morgan.
And I'm Brett Coleman Baker. Cheers.
Cheers. How's Thanksgiving?
Good. Ate too much, drank too much, just as we predicted.
Yeah.
I think I have ticked the box this month of binge drinker.
Yeah.
Not on purpose, as it goes. Question of the day, which we'll get to at the end of the episode, and we want to hear your response, is what's the best thing you ate or drank during Thanksgiving?
All right. I'll mull that over.
As always, best way you can support Brew Skies so we can keep doing what we're doing, which hopefully you're enjoying. Like, comment, subscribe, share. That's the best. That helps us, helps the algorithm, blah, 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 blah. If you really want to support us financially, hop on over to Patreon, buy us a beer. It's $5 a month. I mean, that's not even a beer. It's a cheap beer. It's a shitty beer.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get right into it.
Gansett.
It is a Gansett, which actually is a good beer. That's what you're drinking now.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. We're going to start with an Anchor update. Anchor Brewing Company, as you know, has been shut down by Sapporo, who bought it. They ran it into the ground. They killed Christmas Ale, the longest running Christmas Ale. They're ruining Liberty Ale. They're not doing the steam beer anymore. They're basically destroying everything.
Yeah.
After they ruined the iconic branding.
Yes.
It is now official. It's on the books. It's going to be auctioned off and sold for parts.
So no progress on, they haven't tried to even work with the employees that want to buy it and run it and save America's oldest craft brewery.
The employees were only able to raise $100,000 through GoFundMe, which is not enough. So Sapporo kindly said, go fuck yourself. And now they are.
I don't think they kindly said anything.
No, they probably
I think
didn't.
they're complete pieces of shit.
They're selling off the property, which they value at $40 million. They're selling off all the brewing equipment separately, and then they're selling off all the IP separately. And they expect to pull in $2.5 million just for IP, which includes Liberty Ale, Steam Ale, Christmas Ale, those things.
You know, I really wonder where Fritz is in this process. I mean, we interviewed Fritz Maytag in episode 3, I think, of the Brew Skies Happy Hour podcast. And that was a lot of fun. That was a real honor for us.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a great
Fritz
episode.
being this guy that transformed American beer. He sold Sapporo, or he sold a Anchor Steam to Sapporo. Mm-hmm. We talked to him about that in that interview, but you know that was before Sapporo decided to dismantle everything that he had done with that brand in life.
Yep.
So his attitude at the time was pretty philosophical. Oh, you know, they're a big company. They're going to continue to do a good job making this beer that I made iconic, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not what they've done. Now, Fritz at this point, I mean, he is doing other things in life. He's not just hanging out on a boat. Mm-hmm. He is making liquor and he's making cheese.
He's a motivated man.
He's a motivated man and he's a really smart guy. But he's in, he might be 90 at this point.
He was definitely in his 80s.
He was like 88 when we talked to him, and that was a couple years ago. So he's probably right at 90. And I would think if I were Fritz Maytag, I wouldn't let this stand. I mean, he's got a gazillion dollars. He's not gonna be around for another 40 years to spend that gazillion dollars. Mm-hmm. So why not buy it back? You know, why not be the person that facilitates the employees carrying on the brand and the tradition and the heritage that you made and you created?
So I take that's what you would do in this situation.
That's what I would do in this situation if I were Fritz. And it's what Fritz should do in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably got way more than enough money to get to the end of his life. So yeah, like you said, why not buy it up? Give it back to the employees. Not even give it back. Sell it back to the employees. Let them be employees.
Yeah, just on finance it. I mean, yeah, it's not. I mean, I hope Fritz, he is a motivated guy. I think he's in good health for his age. But yes, you only live so long. And he's 90. So, or ish. You're almost in a Brewster's Millions situation at that point. I mean, he could not possibly spend the money that he has in however many years he has left, even if he lives to be 110.
For the under 40 crowd, Brewster's Millions is a show I'm gathering about where a guy has to spend a lot of money in a short amount of time.
Yeah, that movie's like a classic, dude. Yes, it's like an 80s movie, but people have seen that movie. It's an iconic classic movie.
Well, speaking of things that aren't classic, well, I guess this part of it is classic. Sean Diddy Combs, we have an update.
Oh, definitely a classic.
Mike, do you want to just give us the update on this one?
Sure. Sean Diddy Combs, we caught a little bit of flack, I did, I guess, for expressing the fact that I think Sean Diddy Combs is a complete piece of shit. But that was that was weeks ago. That was before all the rape allegations. And now there's been a couple of bad weeks for Sean Diddy Combs, and he has been accused of a lot of really ugly things. Rape, at least once.
Two lawsuits now. Two individual lawsuits.
Two individual lawsuits, and rape allegations aside, also just a lot of real additional nastiness.
Yeah.
Terrible human behavior. So none of that shocks me, but what has shocked me is that, at least according to the New York Times, which we do know, caveat, is fake news, the failing New York Times, but the New York Times says that Sean Diddy is making $90 million a year, but a majority of that money comes from his deal with Diageo, his tequila. Which he doesn't even make. I mean, all he does is put his name on it.
And he doesn't make it and he doesn't sell it. He's just a marketer that they're paying way too much money for.
Right.
So that means he's not making money off his fashion. He's not making money off his music.
Yeah.
He's not making money off his record label.
He's supposed to be this music mogul, this artist, and this fashion mogul. And all of it
wannabe.
seems to be, So he lends his name, he's been lending his name to Macy's, who apparently also just cut him loose. And he's been lending his name to Diageo. So
Macy's.
He really, the clothing line.
Yeah, it's just a weird
It's
move.
like the only times in life that Trump has actually been financially successful is when other people have done 100% of the work using his name as something to market.
Mm-hmm.
So that's entirely what Sean Diddy is in the market of right now, is lending his name to other people doing all the work to sell stuff to idiots that buy it because it's puffy combs.
So he's our next president.
He's probably our next president. And also, this whole, to me, it reframes this conflict with Diageo. I don't know what Diageo has or hasn't done. And we've also made fun of Diageo's complete department of whining. Mm-hmm. But for fuck's sake, I don't know what majority means, but it means at least more than 51% of $90 million a year. If Diageo wants to give me $50 million a year to use my name, number one, tell me where to sign. And number two, I'm not going to bitch about anything. No. Seems like a good fucking deal. He thinks he's not getting paid enough. He's not doing shit. And he's making over $50 million a year. And he's got a problem with it?
Well, rape allegations and lawsuits are expensive to defend.
Well, sure.
New Jersey.
Don't rape is the first
that is
rule
good
of
rules to live by.
Yeah.
New Jersey has pretty archaic taproom laws.
Yeah.
And they've been working on a reform. And it went through the New Jersey House and New Jersey State Senate. And it got to the governor to sign into law to basically make it so taprooms can operate more like a bar and a taproom in every other state. Governor vetoed it, shot it down, and he's rolling back all of the loosening restrictions that they had. So if you're not familiar with New Jersey, if you go to any brewery taproom, you have to take a tour. You cannot buy food. And if you are the tap room, you cannot have more than 25 events a year. And an event counts as trivia or live music or a seminar or yoga. If you're doing anything with outside people, it's an event and you can only do 25 of those a year.
So
no food trucks are allowed either.
It's essentially the same taproom law that Massachusetts had when Jim Cook started Boston Beer Company in the early 1980s.
Yes. Yes.
Is that fat fuck Chris Christie still governor?
I don't know. The issue really stems from the fact that the bar and restaurant lobby in New Jersey is crooked, and they have to spend a lot of money to get a liquor license to even sell. If you want to open a bar, even if it's just beer, you have to spend millions of dollars to get a license. So they are like, how can this brewery open up that only spent $2,500 to get a brewery
Right.
permit and sell their beer when I have to spend over $1 million?
Right.
So that's the issue.
Which I understand. I mean, I saw the same thing in Montana. Montana, it's not nearly as bad, but Montana has this stupid law around tap rooms where you're only allowed to drink 2 beers in a brewery tap room, and they give you this little card, and so they check them off, and then you're not allowed, to drink in that tap room again. Although if you walk outside and come back in 15 minutes later, they shockingly don't recognize you. But you're not supposed to drink more than 2 beers in a tap room a day, because that is the compromise that they reached with the restaurant bar industry. And I understand their concerns, because Montana, like most states, their liquor law numbers are related to population. And Montana is one of those places that parts of it rely very heavily on tourism. So you have a very small permanent population, which restricts your number of liquor licenses, but it means that when people come to Glacier National Park or something, or Yellowstone on the south, or to ski, then those bars do incredible business. So it means that a liquor license would sell for about $500,000. And so then these breweries, these breweries say, hey, we should be allowed to run a bar. If you're the person who just paid $500,000 for a liquor license, you're obviously going to be, whoa, no, fuck you.
So really, what they need to do is reform how liquor licenses are handled.
Yes.
Rather than clamp down on these breweries. Or clamp down on or just keep doing what you're doing. I don't know. But you're right. If you spent $500,000,
yes.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's like New York taxi cab medallions, and then letting Uber and Lyft come in and devalue those medallions. You just paid $2 million for a cab medallion so you can run a cab, and then some douchebag just fills out a form online and is an Uber driver and is now doing the exact same thing without the investment.
Premiumization is falling and stalling in the U.S. and globally. Now,
premiumization?
Yes.
This seems nefarious. What's premiumization?
Thanks for teeing that up, Mike. Basically, more high-end brands aren't getting created or being invested in. So, like in the wine world, you have $60 bottles of wine. That would be a ultra premium brand versus a $20 bottle. So the really high-end in spirits and in wine and in just bev alc in general are not growing. And economists are confused. Economists are looking at things like inflation's going down, GDP is rising globally. In America, these things are happening. Why aren't people spending more money on more expensive alcohol? Mike, do you have an idea why that's the case?
No.
Oh, I don't really either, other than the economy's actually not doing that well for the common person. That's my fucking take on it.
Yeah, it's not doing well for the common person, but what we have seen, particularly in the U.S., is an increasing concentration of wealth. So I suspect if you break those statistics down, when you're referring to a $60 bottle of wine as an ultra premium bottle of wine, I understand why $60 bottles of wine aren't selling as much. However, I thought we have done some stories, I would expect that $500 bottles of wine are actually selling more, because you have a small group of people that are accumulating an almost infinite amount of money who can't spend it fast enough. If you'd like me to reference Brewster's Millions again, I will.
Brewster Millions in our economy.
Yeah, so I would like to see the full stats on that. Because, I'm not spending $60 on a bottle of wine anymore. No, the economy, by a lot of metrics, what is happening with the American economy when you look at it in comparison to Western Europe, it's doing less bad. And it's starting to stabilize. And so, economic policy in this country has been working to make the economy less shitty than it was coming right out of COVID. But it still sucks.
Yes. Less shitty compared to 2 years ago, but not 10 years ago.
And less shitty compared to Western European countries dealing with the same underlying economic problems. But less shitty is still not shitty.
Well, I think to your point, too, where
Venn diagram on that.
the highest end is still doing okay because of the accumulation of wealth in the top 1%.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, Suntory Whiskey, which is the biggest whiskey manufacturer in Japan, and Japanese whiskey is huge right now, they are raising the prices on their highest end bottles by double. And the highest end bottle prices started at $1,000, and now they start at $2,000. So to your point, yes, it's just all moving upwards, and we're all suffering for it.
Yes.
The first signs of a softening bourbon market are starting to appear.
Oh my God.
Isn't that nice? We might be able to get Buffalo Trace again in 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's for the exact same reasons we just discussed.
It is. And it's largely we're seeing the softening actually in export market. Europeans are basically getting to the point where like, I'm tired of paying this much money for American bourbon. I can buy Japanese whiskey or Scotch or Irish whiskey at a better price. Yeah. And it's not that much different.
Well, yeah, depending on your palate. I mean, we've had that conversation. I like bourbon. We both like bourbon, enjoy good bourbon. But
Me too.
Really, I think Scotch has become underrated in this country.
Yeah, Scotch is amazing.
I really enjoy Scotch. I like Scotch more than bourbon, if I'm being honest, which, I live in Kentucky, so I'm probably going to be fine for that or whatever. But I'm a Kentucky Colonel, actually. But, I'm not shitting on bourbon, but Scotch is good. However, I think there is also probably an element in that with also what we just said. I mean, the same inflationary economic problems we see here in the U.S., they're seeing the same thing in Europe, and it's worse.
Yeah, and why buy expensive imports when you can get Scotch through the EU for a much better deal?
Yeah, they're going to downgrade. I mean, they're going to be cutting out average middle-class people in Western Europe are cutting back on spending the exact same way we are, except things are actually even worse for them.
Drinksgiving, a.k.a. Blackout Wednesday, a.k.a. Thanksgiving Eve.
Yep.
That took another hit this year. Volumes were down 2.5% year over year, and last year we knew that volumes were down again from prior to COVID. So the biggest bar night of the year still isn't back and still isn't growing like it once was. Mike, did you go out this Drinksgiving Eve?
I did not. I was at my sister's, and I got drunk with my sister, but we didn't go out. And I will posit a theory on why this is happening.
Please.
In the days of my youth, 70 years ago, whatever, the big thing, I think that the big thing with that Wednesday before Thanksgiving was that it was a reunion of friends.
Yes.
And one of the things that always really drove it is you had gone away to college or whatever, mostly college, the military, etc., or you moved away to get a job.
Yeah.
But you came back and you saw those people that you went to high school with at the town that you're from, and you all went and out and you got hammered. I think that we're still dealing with the fact that there was a 2 to 3 year period of time where COVID completely screwed up the social interaction of high school students and college freshmen.
Yeah.
So, if you spent your half of your sophomore, your junior, and your senior year in high school online, you didn't build the same interactions and camaraderie with friends that people always had pre-COVID. So that may come back, but I think that there are so many of these ramifications of that couple year period of time of COVID.
That's a great point. And that just shows too, in the top beers sold on Drinksgiving is all beers that group of people 21 to 25 would drink. And the number 1 beer sold was Mick Ultra, number 2 was Miller Lite, number 3 was Bud Light, number 4 was Coors Light, Modelo Especial, and then Blue Moon at number 6. So, that all of that is beers you're drinking when you're 22.
Right.
So
It's the youth.
I like that theory. I think that's good. It's just COVID ramifications falling out due to the lack of socialization and bonds that happened. And you know, more people I think are staying home and going to local colleges than they are going out too.
Right.
At least here in Cincinnati.
Again, back to economy.
Yeah.
People are going out less. And since Gen Z doesn't drink as much or have as much sex, why go out?
Yeah. That's a good point too.
What are you gonna do?
A new study has come out to show that drinking or eating a huge meal like Thanksgiving and drinking a lot can actually make your hangover worse. Because your body's busy processing all the food, it can't get to the alcohol, so you process alcohol even slower, so you're even more hungover the day after Thanksgiving if you ate a lot and drank a lot.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that. I mean, you can tell me it's fucking science, but number one, I don't really believe in science. You know, the scientists are always telling you shit like global warming and a bunch of nonsense. Ooh. But beyond that, it's just not my personal experience. Right? Like, I mean, I never get more drunk than when I haven't eaten.
Yeah, that's
And-
true. That's true.
I also just feel terrible. I mean, it's not, I am ashamed of myself when I scarf down a bunch of cheese conies at 2 a.m. But it definitely helps me
better.
feel less bad
feel
the following day.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just don't believe that shit.
I don't either, but you know, that's what they say. So I guess if you're gonna get really drunk, don't eat any food.
Yeah, or
And then you'll
ignore
feel
that,
fine the
or
next day.
ignore that and eat because actually it helps you.
Just listen to your body. That's the answer here.
I had this girlfriend in the '90s. It was like she had learned when she was young that like drinking water helped reactivate alcohol, and so it was bad for you. It made your hangover worse. So she wouldn't drink
Oh my God.
water.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That sounds like these are scientists that are giving this bullshit advice you've got, but it sounds as stupid to me as her theory that she shouldn't hydrate because that was going to make her hangover worse. It really didn't work out for her.
You heard it here,
but,
folks. Drinking water gives you hangovers.
Yeah.
Stick to beer.
Yeah, I didn't work out for her either. So, you know, some people, bad taste and bad knowledge, fuck off.
Boston Beer, a.k.a. Sam Adams, is launching a new non-alcoholic fruit brew that is
God.
40% beer, 60% fruit water. I don't know what fruit
What?
water is, but that's what they're claiming. It's 60% fruit water. Does that mean they're mixing LaCroix with non-alcoholic beer?
You make fruited stuff. I don't
I
know.
thought fruit water was called juice. Why did they call it juice? What the fuck is fruit water?
If you're having to call it fruit water, it means it's not juice. It's not fruit. It's not juice. It's not puree.
What do we call this
It's
really cheap,
fruit
shitty
water.
fruit thing that we
This
have?
Shit, this water that's got some chemicals in it and some added flavor nonsense. That's probably it. There's probably actually no fruit in it.
It probably isn't. It's like those dicks that call coffee bean juice, hot bean juice. Like, oh, you're not clever. This is also on the back of a second announcement from Boston Beer where they're announcing a new innovation hub. And they're going to start just
God.
cranking out all sorts of new brands for specific test markets across the country in an effort to find the next Twisted Tea. So get ready for some weird-ass shit coming from Sam Adams. That's not beer, obviously. There's no way they're going to do a beer.
We love Jim Cook, but Boston Beer as a company is really depressing in terms of what it says about the alcoholic beverage industry. I mean, it was founded on making really good quality beer. And Sam Adams still does that. They've cheapened their recipe a little bit the last few years, but they still make really good quality beer.
Yeah.
It's just becoming less and less of the
I don't
percentage
like the
of
new
what they
Boston
make.
Lager recipe personally, but whatever.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I think they cheapened the process. It didn't. Yeah, actually, I think I like the beer better. But They used to do that whole, we talk about in the interview that I did with Jim Cook, that whole like slurry shit that they did with the, what do you call that process where they, like you're pumping part of the mash back into,
Like
you know what I'm talking about?
It's like akin to a sour mash. No, decoction.
Yeah,
They do
that.
decoction. Used to.
Yeah, they were doing this complicated decoction brewing process, and they were still doing it on a mass scale with Sam Adams, which seems impractical as hell.
It is very impractical and doesn't really impact the taste, but whatever.
So they quit doing that, and that's fine. I probably would have stopped that a long time ago. But the fact that beer makes up such a decreasing percentage of what they do as a company,
Yeah.
and all of this other, fruit water, twisted tea, NASCAR horseshit is now their bread and butter. It's now why they're a profitable company. That makes me sad.
Well, speaking of sad things, let me read you this line that Molson Coors just announced. Now, it's going to be a lot. Let me get through it. Molson Coors creates America's Commercial Accelerator, which is focused on driving, quote, capability building across all geographies and categories. This newly created America's Commercial Accelerator will bring together the following teams under one umbrella. Commercial insights, commercial analytics, media and digital, revenue management, and category management. Mike, what the fuck does any of that mean?
You know what it left out? Palatable drinks.
That's not part of the business plan.
No. Zero part of the business plan is anything you would want to put in your fucking mouth. Jesus.
Yeah, I've never read so much corporate horseshit in 2 sentences in my entire life, and they put out a whole press release on it. Congratulations, Molson Coors.
Well, let's put a pin in that, Brett, and we'll circle back to it later.
Let's take this offline.
Yeah, we'll take it on. Let's put a pin in it. We'll take it offline. And whatever, throw in your other corporate horseshit nonsense that idiots say.
Belgian Beaver is a craft brewery.
Oh!
That's a craft brewery with the worst name that I've ever heard, ever.
Or maybe the best.
Well, they're rebranding. They're fired 4 salespeople, and they're moving from 12-ounce cans exclusively to 16-ounce cans exclusively. I just wanted to bring it up because I hate the name Belching Beaver.
Where's it made?
Oregon, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Belching Beaver's terrible. Who's that appeal to? I feel like it appeals to a very small demographic of men from 35 to 55, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's a good example. I mean, we have hit on this in the past, that there is still the residue in the beer industry of a lot of, at its worst, direct misogyny, at its best, just thoughtless, dumb...
Drivel.
Yeah. So, yes. It's not...
Yeah, that's well said.
It's stupid.
That sums it up. Texas Hill Country. They're really
Also
becoming...
terrible, whatever. Wherever this is going, I'm also against it.
Well, that sums it up. They're becoming known for their wines. Sommeliers are starting to take notice.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you if that makes you want to visit and or move to Texas Hill Country or Texas in general.
I don't even like to fly over Texas. If I have a choice to land in that goddamn in the Dallas or Houston airport and I have another option, I really honestly, I like to avoid Texas. Like when I drive to Missouri for Thanksgiving, I would love to avoid Missouri, except that's where my family is. So, but I drive around Indiana. I take the southern route,
smart.
so I don't have
That's
to go into Indiana. I do the same thing with Texas. But what is, that's like East Texas, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Texas is fucking huge. It actually has a lot of different, I always think of Texas as just the flat,
like West
brown
Texas.
West Texas. But East Texas, there's a lot of it that's actually really lush.
It is. There are
supposed to be some good wine growing regions, but
there's good breweries there too and stuff. It's just Texas sucks.
Yeah.
Mike, what is the non-alc story of the week? We have a couple big deaths this week, did we not?
We did have a couple big deaths this week. I'm not really going to cry over either of them, but one less so than the other. The first was Henry Kissinger, over 100 years old, that evil fuck.
Yep, the world is a little less evil.
It is a little less evil. And it's a crazy thing. I mean, when you look back at Kissinger, he probably should have been tried and sentenced as a war criminal 4 or 5 different times.
Yes.
Instead, he is celebrated as this incredible statesman. And yet, what one positive, successful thing did that motherfucking piece of shit ever actually do?
I can't name one.
I mean, he rose to fame with, into the Johnson administration. Lyndon Johnson was on the cusp of ending the Vietnam War. And Nixon and Kissinger got involved, decided to intentionally sabotage those peace talks so that Nixon could run on his secret plan to end the war, which didn't exist. And Nixon gets elected, and then instead of ending the war, Kissinger decides that the policy they should follow is what I think they called like the madman theory, like make the North Vietnamese surrender because they believe that Nixon is insane, because he's bloodthirsty and he is willing to expend as many American lives as necessary to win this war.
Jesus Christ.
And the way that they played out that faking Nixon being bloodthirsty and insane was to, in fact, actually just expend as many fucking American lives as possible for no goddamn reason.
And ruin countless lives in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam.
Start just arbitrarily bombing a bunch of people in countries that we weren't even supposed to be at war with. Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, Kissinger's really responsible for the murder of millions of people there. And, you know, then in Chile, he really kind of helped give us the modern, like the foreign policy that really became like the Bush-Reagan foreign policy, where, you know, a country democratically elects a leader, and that leader has socialist tendencies, wants to do, you know, crazy, ridiculous, terrible things for the world, like socialized medicine or, you know, equitable access to financial opportunities.
Don't say
like
the
that.
word taxes either.
Oh my
Gross.
God. So, you know, we as a nation went in and overthrew that government so that we could install Pinochet and get good capitalism and torture and murder.
I do love Pinot. It's a good wine.
Yeah, Pinot's nice. Pinochet wine is not quite as good. There's blood in it. But,
Blood wine. Yummy.
Yeah.
I like
And
blood
then-
diamonds.
and
Blood
then
wine and blood diamonds.
They're
A match made in heaven.
they're great. They're great. I actually will only buy diamonds for the wife, which really only happened once a long time ago. But I make sure it's a blood diamond.
Blood diamond certified.
Because I want some blood. I think it makes it more valuable. You know, that some blood has gone. If a couple of kids haven't had their arms cut off for that diamond.
So if you guys haven't noticed the sarcasm here, there was actually a lot that happened this week in the non-out stories, which we really don't even have time for. Sandra de OConnor also died recently. That crazy libertarian just won down in Argentina.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's going to be wild, but we can't really get into much more of that. But check all this stuff out if you're interested or not, or leave a comment and ask us to tell more, and Mike will go on a rant. Maybe we'll do a special bonus episode on our Patreon.
I got a final Sandra de OConnor rant though. I mean,
All right, fire it off. 30 seconds.
Sandra de OConnor, the really sad thing to her, the really sad thing about her is that she had this fantastic career. I mean, as a law student, I loved Sandra de OConnor opinions. She was a brilliant justice and a great moderate, a really fantastic legal mind. But in the end, she made George Bush president. Trump didn't have an election stolen from him. But you know who actually did? A guy named Al Gore.
I thought you were going to say Ross Perot.
Al Gore won the election in 2000, but the United States Supreme Court, with the deciding vote of Sandra de OConnor, appointed George W. Bush president, and it changed everything about the trajectory of America after that.
We wouldn't have had 9/11. if it wasn't for George Bush.
We would not. And if we had 9/11, nonetheless, the response to it would have been, let's stop being addicted to foreign oil as opposed to go shopping. And let's arbitrarily start a war with Iraq.
And hate the French for some reason.
So, Sandra de OConnor, I think, is a real tragedy because she's someone who should be remembered for being the first female Supreme Court justice and being a really brilliant legal mind. But in the end, her legacy is George W. Bush and all the fucked uppery that came after it.
Okay, well, that was a long 30 seconds, but very poignant. So let's get to the last thing, and then we're going to wrap this long episode up. Mike, best thing you ate and or drank during Thanksgiving?
You know, based on your recommendation, actually, I hadn't thought about it. I walked into this liquor store by my sister's house, and they had Duchess chocolate cherry.
Oh, shit.
And so I picked it up, and really, I mean, it did pair well with everything because it pairs differently. You know, there are things that it complements and there are things that it contrasted, and it was just the perfect thing to drink with Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, love that. I think the favorite thing I ate was the deep fried turkey we had this year, and the favorite thing I drank is my brother-in-law makes a mean Negroni. Delicious. All right, that's it. That's the episode.
We love you, people.
Cheers.
Keep drinking. Because the world's just getting worse.